Picture this. It's 1977. Muscle cars are on life support, disco is ruining everything, and Pontiac decides to do something absolutely insane. They build a limited edition beast with graphics so wild they look stolen from a racetrack, name it after a legendary racing series, and then, plot twist, kill it after just 1 year. 1,377 units. That's not a production run. That's automotive birth control. This is the story of the Pontiac Can Am, the rarest muscle car almost nobody remembers, and how corporate fear murdered it before it ever had a chance. Let me paint you a picture of 1977. The muscle car era was dead, strangled by emissions regulations, insurance companies, and gas station lines. While everyone else was building gutless economy boxes with all the excitement of a dentist appointment, Pontiac tried something different. They looked at their parts bin, found some leftovers from the glory days, and said, "Let's build one more muscle car before they shut us down completely." The name Can Am wasn't random. It was borrowed glory. The Canadian-American Challenge Cup was the most insane racing series of the late 60s and early 70s. Unlimited horsepower, zero restrictions, pure engineering violence on 4 wheels. By 1977, that series was dead, just like muscle cars. So Pontiac basically grave-robbed a legendary name and slapped it on a Le Mans, hoping nobody would notice the irony. Under those wild graphics sat a 1977 Pontiac LeMans, which sounds exciting until you realize it was basically a dressed-up grocery getter. But here's where Pontiac tried. They dropped in the W72 400 cubic inch V8, one of the few real engines left that hadn't been strangled completely by emissions, 180 horsepower. Yes, you heard that right. Not 380, just 180. In 1970, that number gets you laughed off the strip. In 1977, it gets you a parade. But forget the numbers. The Can-Am's real weapon was looking fast even when it wasn't. Pontiac's designers went absolutely wild with the graphics package. Bold stripes, aggressive decals, spoilers, scoops, and colors that screamed, "I'm compensating for lost horsepower with maximum visual violence." White with blue and red stripes, like the American flag had a baby with a race car. It was subtle as a grenade in a library. And that was the point. 1,377. Let that marinate. Here's what happened. In 1976, Pontiac executives looked at their sales numbers and nearly had a collective breakdown. The Trans Am was their only performance car left, and they needed something cheaper to capture the muscle car nostalgia market. Solution? Take a LeMans, add graphics, bolt on some performance parts, call it special edition, charge extra. Corporate genius or desperation disguised as strategy? Let's talk specs. That W72 400 V8 made 180 horsepower and 320 pound-feet of torque. Translation: slow by 1970 standards, rocket ship by 1977 malaise era. 0 to 60 miles per hour, about 8.5 seconds, quarter mile, high 15s. Again, pathetic compared to a 1970 Boss 429. Incredible compared to a 1977 Chevrolet Chevette. Context is everything. Pontiac offered 2 transmission choices. 4-speed manual for purists who still believed in fun, or 3-speed automatic for people who'd given up on life. Handling? Well, it had front and rear sway bars, heavy-duty suspension, and 15-inch Rally 2 wheels. Was it a corner carver? Absolutely not. But it was better than the base Le Mans, which handled like a waterbed on wheels. Now, you might ask, why not just buy a Trans Am? Great question. The Trans Am cost around $6,000. The Can Am, closer to $4,500. That $1,500 difference bought you graphics, some badges, and the ability to tell people you owned a special edition Pontiac. The Trans Am was the real muscle car. The Can Am was muscle car cosplay, but cheaper cosplay. Here's where it gets fascinating. Pontiac planned to build the Can Am as a limited run for 1977 only, artificial scarcity to drive demand. They built exactly 1,377 units. Not a typo, not a marketing number. Actual units. Like they counted every single one and then stopped. That's fewer units than most modern limited editions that manufacturers pump out by the thousands. Color choices? 3. Cameo white with blue and red stripes. The iconic look. Starlight black. for people who wanted stealth aggression, and goldenrod yellow, for people who wanted maximum attention. Most buyers chose white, because nothing says performance heritage like looking like a vintage race car. Black was rare, yellow was rarest, which means if you find one today, you've found automotive treasure. Inside, bucket seats, rally gauges, 3-spoke steering wheel, and not much else. This wasn't a luxury car, it was a statement. Air conditioning, optional, power windows, dream on. Pontiac stripped it down to emphasize performance, even though that performance was mostly visual. But here's the thing, it worked. People who bought Can-Ams felt like they owned something special, even if the spec sheet said otherwise. Culturally, 1977 was weird for car guys. Star Wars dominated theaters, people wanted escape from reality. Saturday Night Fever made disco unavoidable. And American cars were, let's be honest, objectively terrible. Chrysler was near bankruptcy. Ford's Mustang II was an embarrassment. GM was building Cadillacs with Oldsmobile engines without telling anyone. The Can-Am existed in this chaos as a tiny beacon of, remember when cars were cool? Pontiac really leaned into that Can-Am racing connection. Marketing materials featured images of the actual racing series, unlimited horsepower monsters from the late 60s. Then they'd show you the 1977 Can-Am and hope you wouldn't notice the 600 horsepower difference. It was brilliant false advertising. Not lying exactly, just strategic memory manipulation. Remember when racing was awesome? Buy this. It has the same name. Still with me? Good, because it gets sadder. So, how did it sell? Poorly. Many of those 377 units sat on dealer lots longer than Pontiac wanted to admit. Buyers looked at the Can-Am, looked at the Trans Am, did the math, and realized, why buy the cheap performance car when the real performance car costs $1,500 more? Pontiac had accidentally created a car that was too expensive for budget buyers, and not good enough for enthusiasts. Classic marketing failure. GM accountants probably celebrated this cancellation with champagne. Bought on sale, obviously. Behind the scenes, GM's corporate bureaucracy was strangling Pontiac's performance division. Accountants ran the show. Engineers were sidelined. Every performance decision required approval from people who thought excitement was a quarterly profit increase. The Can-Am was approved because it was cheap to produce, just graphics and badges. But it was killed because it didn't sell fast enough. Corporate patience, measured in fiscal quarters. What were the competitors doing? Chevrolet had nothing in this segment. The Camaro was struggling. Ford's Mustang II was a punchline. Dodge was still selling some decently powerful stuff, but even they were on life support. The Can-Am didn't fail because competition was fierce. It failed because the entire muscle car market was dead. Pontiac tried resuscitating a corpse with graphics and hope. But here's the twist. Today that failure makes it valuable. Rarity breeds desirability. Only one 307 built means surviving examples are scarce. Clean examples easily hit the $40,000 to $60,000 range, with Concours examples pushing even higher. That's 10 times the original price. People who bought them new thinking, this is a special edition, were accidentally right. Just not for the reasons they thought. How many survive today? Estimates vary. Some say 600, others claim closer to 800. That means nearly half disappeared. Crashed, junked, abandoned, or modified beyond recognition. Finding an original, unmolested Can-Am is like finding a unicorn that also does your taxes. Survivors are treasured. Restored examples command serious money. Unrestored originals with documentation, priceless. Most surviving Can-Ams are not original. Owners swapped engines because 180 horsepower wasn't enough even in 1977. Graphics were removed because loud stripes weren't cool in the 80s. Interiors were updated with aftermarket stereos and seats. Today, originality is king. A bone stock Can-Am with factory graphics and original engine, that's the holy grail. Everything else is just a modified LeMans. Why just 1 year? Corporate decided the Can-Am wasn't worth continuing. Sales were weak, profit margins thin, and Pontiac's performance future was centering entirely on the Trans Am. So after 1977, done. No 1978, Can-Am. No second generation. No legacy. Just 1 year, 1,377 units, and a footnote in Pontiac history. It's like they built it, realized nobody cared, and quietly backed away, hoping nobody noticed. Did killing the Can Am hurt Pontiac? Not really. The Trans Am was selling well enough. The Grand Prix was making money. The Can Am was an experiment that failed, and Pontiac moved on without looking back. But it symbolized something darker. Pontiac's inability to create affordable performance in the malaise era. They had one successful performance car and nothing else. That lack of diversity would haunt them for decades. Here's what Pontiac should have learned, but didn't. Limited production doesn't create demand if the product isn't desirable. Graphics don't replace horsepower. Borrowing a legendary name doesn't transfer legendary performance. And most importantly, cheap muscle cars need to be actually affordable or actually muscular. The Can Am was neither. It existed in automotive purgatory. Too expensive to be cheap, too slow to be exciting. Take a breath. We're almost to the good part. Today's collector market loves the Can Am because of its rarity. 40 to 60,000 for excellent examples, 70,000 plus for perfect, documented, low-mileage survivors. That goldenrod yellow car? If you find one, congratulations. You found something fewer than 50 people own. The irony? It's valuable now because it failed then. Limited production that nobody wanted became limited production that everyone wants. Compare that to other 1977 muscle cars. A base Camaro from 1977, maybe 20,000. A Trans Am, 40 to 50,000. The Can Am commands prices matching lower-end Trans Ams, despite having half the performance. Why? Rarity. Collectors pay premiums for scarcity, and nothing is scarcer than a car that only existed for 1 year in limited numbers. Economic principle, supply and demand, working perfectly in reverse. Imagine if Pontiac had continued the Can Am. Multi-year production, growing legend, potential for real performance upgrades. By 1980, emissions technology improved. They could have added horsepower. By 1985, the performance era was coming back. The Can Am could have been positioned as the affordable Pontiac performance option. But no, they killed it after 1 year. Automotive history's most disappointing what if. The Can Am shares a legacy with other one-year wonder muscle cars. The 1969 Chevrolet Camaro ZL1, 69 built. The 1970 Plymouth Superbird, limited NASCAR homologation. The 1987 Buick GNX, only 547 units. All became legendary because they were rare. The difference? Those cars were rare and terrifyingly fast. The Can Am was just rare. But in the collector market, sometimes rare is enough. Want to buy a Can Am today? Good luck. They rarely come up for auction. When they do, bidding is fierce. Private sales require connections in the Pontiac community. And forget finding a cheap project car. Those were all restored or parted out decades ago. Your best bet? Join Pontiac clubs, watch auction sites obsessively, and prepare to pay serious money for a car that cost $4,500 new. Let's recap the specs one more time. W72 400 V8, 180 horsepower, 320 pound-feet of torque, 4-speed manual or 3-speed automatic, 0 to 60, 8.5 seconds, quarter mile, high 15s, top speed, about 115 miles per hour, on paper, pathetic, in context, heroic, in 2025, priceless. The Can Am symbolizes everything about the late 70s muscle car scene. Desperate attempts to recapture glory, corporate fear strangling creativity, enthusiasts wanting performance but regulations making it nearly impossible, and manufacturers trying to sell nostalgia when they couldn't sell speed. It's a rolling reminder that sometimes the industry makes cars for markets that don't exist anymore. In the end, was the Can Am a success or failure? Both. Commercial failure, absolutely. Only 1,377 sold, killed after 1 year, forgotten for decades. But cultural success, absolutely. It proved that even in the darkest days of American automotive history, somebody at Pontiac still cared about performance, even if that care manifested as bold graphics and borrowed names. That counts for something. The 1977 Pontiac Can Am wasn't the fastest muscle car, it wasn't the prettiest. It wasn't even particularly good, but it was honest. Pontiac looked at the malaise era and said, We're building one more muscle car even if it kills us. And then it did kill the model. 1 year, 377 units, graphics louder than the exhaust, a name borrowed from racing glory. And today, a collector's dream precisely because it failed. The Can Am is proof that in the automotive world, sometimes the losers win eventually. So, would you pay $60,000 for a car that made 180 horsepower new? Or is the Can Am just an overpriced reminder of Detroit's worst decade? Drop your thoughts in the comments, especially if you own one of these unicorns. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into forgotten muscle car history, smash that subscribe button. Next week, we're covering another limited edition disaster that makes the Can Am look like a masterpiece. This is Car Chronicles, where rarity doesn't always mean brilliance, but it always means interesting stories. Don't be that guy who misses it.